Welcome to my 18-month Genshin Impact AR60 whale account showcase. I want to get into the showcase here, but I want to go over a few things first. My account is now 1.5 years old. I haven't been whaling since the inception of the account though. I only started whaling in September 2021, which was 8 months ago. It was when Raiden's banner first came out. Up until that point, I was only a Battle Pass Welkin Moon player. Most of my resin so far has been spent on character levels, talents, and weapons, with less emphasis on artifacts up until now. As a content creator, I have built up a lot of artifact sets for a lot of different characters, but most of those sets are just at a basic level of proficiency, nothing super spectacular. But let's go ahead and get into the showcase. As you can see here, my adventure rank is in fact level 60. The most notable thing about my account is up until patch 2.6, we've had 47 characters in the game, and I've collected all of them. Not only have I collected them, but I've leveled them all up to level 90, with level 10 friendship, and all of their talents are at least level 6, with many of them being 9, and 2 of them being triple crowned. I was working on getting every character to level 9 talents, but I've put the brakes on that as I want to actually do some artifact farming for some of my favorite characters. Now here are all of the weapons I've collected in the game. I have at least one of every 5-star weapon in the game, with 2 exceptions, these being Summit Shaper and Skyward Atlas. As far as 4-star weapons go, I have at least one of every weapon. This includes crafted weapons and event-exclusive weapons. I have been trying to get all the 4-star weapons to refinement level 5 as well, but that is still a work in progress. I will take some time here to show off all the constellations of all of my characters real quickly. I'm not going to go into detail about every single character, only the characters that I've built to some proficiency level. So I figure I might as well show all my constellations now. As far as constellations go, I have every 4-star character at C6, with the exception of the 3 starter characters, Lisa, Amber, and Kaya. I have been working on getting their constellations as well whenever they show up in the shop, but that is going to take some time. Now let's get into some character-specific builds, starting with the 5-star characters and then moving on to the 4-star characters afterwards. Let's of course start with my favorite character in the entire game, which is of course my cryo goddess Eula. I have put quite a lot of time into trying to build my Eula as strong as possible, but the Pale Flame artifact dungeon has not been very kind to me. We're sitting at a 65% crit rate with 180% crit damage and 126% energy recharge. All of those numbers could definitely go up quite a bit if my artifact sets were at the level that I would like them to be. We do use an R5 Song of Broken Pines with a C6 constellation. She's one of 2 characters that I have at C6 R5. Talents are level 10 as she has been triple crowned. Now let's take a look at her artifacts. Like I said earlier, the Pale Flame dungeon just has not been very kind to me. Most of my pieces are about 30 CV with usually some other beneficial substat like energy recharge or attack percent. My goblet is the off piece that I use, and this is the one piece that I'm actually building around. It has 40 CV with energy recharge and attack percent, which is absolutely cracked. But I just haven't been able to get lucky with the other Pale Flame pieces. My next C6 R5 character is Raiden. We have her R5 and Goldwing Lightning with all of her constellations. Her talents are also level 10. She is triple crowned as well. Here we can see her stats. I have her about 60% crit rate with 127% crit damage and almost 250% energy recharge. The only thing I'd really like to change about her is getting her CV higher. The crit damage there is just a little too low for my liking. Here are the artifacts that I'm running on her. Again, nothing really spectacular. Most of her pieces are somewhere in the 20 to 30 CV range, usually with a little bit of energy recharge on there as well. Nothing to write home about, but fairly decent as well. I'm going to jump to Kokomi here, as she's also one of my favorite characters currently. With her, we're using the R4 donut, which is actually funny because I was trying to get R5 Engulfing Lightning and got a lot of donuts, so we got her donut to rank 4. For her constellations, she's at C0, which I regret a lot, not pulling for her more. I do use her as a DPS unit, and her constellations are very good at increasing her damage output. So when her banner runs for a third time, I am definitely going to pull for some constellations for her. Talents are all at level 9. Here are her stats. Obviously, crit rate and crit damage do not matter for Kokomi. You're looking for as much HP as possible with energy recharge and some attack as well. We have almost 35,000 hit points on her, which someday I would like to see get closer to 40,000. We run 4-piece ocean-hued clam on her. Her artifacts are actually really good. I have a lot of good pieces on her that are very well balanced, have a good amount of HP, attack percent, and energy recharge. Getting an on-piece circlet for her with healing bonus and a good amount of HP percent is actually fairly difficult, so I'm really happy with this piece right here. And we do run an off-piece hydro damage goblet on her with a fair amount of HP percent on there. The next hero I'd like to show off is Arataki Ito. When his banner comes out in 2.7, I will definitely be C6ing him and R5ing his weapon, so stay tuned for that. Right now we're running his signature weapon at R1, the Redhorn Stone Thresher, and we have him at C2. Talents are of course level 9, and here are the stats I'm running on him. He is almost 90% crit rate with 215% crit damage and 123% energy recharge. We're running 4-piece husk on him, of course. Most of his pieces here are probably in between 20 to 35 CV, with as much defense as I could get. The only real downside to these pieces is I don't have a lot of them with defense percent as a substat, which is quite unfortunate. But we haven't ran the Husk domain that much, so considering how little I've actually ran the dungeon, these pieces are fairly solid. We just need to build up more pieces with defense percent on there as a substat as well. The off piece, of course, is a goblet with geo damage and a fair amount of CV and some energy recharge. Another character that I have built up fairly well is Zhongli. I run him on tenacity, so he gets a lot of the leftover pieces that I don't get from Pale Flame. I use an R1 Staff of Homa on Zhongli, and he is Constellation C1, with his talents being of course at level 9. His stats are fairly decent as he gets a lot of the tenacity pieces from all of the Pale Flame farming I do for Eula. He's currently sitting at 70% crit rate, with almost 200% crit damage and 130% energy recharge. Like I said, the artifacts I run on him are the tenacity set, and he's the only one that I use this set on. Like with most of my characters, all of these pieces have about between 20 to 40 CV on them. We try to get as much HP percent and attack percent on him as possible, and of course trying to get energy recharge. We're of course looking for pieces with high CV value, but also of course looking for energy recharge, attack percent, and HP percent for extra shielding. Now Kazuha is a character that I'm kind of embarrassed to showcase here. I haven't spent any time running the Viridescent domain at all. Even still, he is a very valued member of my team. When his rerun happens in Fingers Crossed 2.8, I do plan on running the Viridescent dungeon quite a bit to get him up to par, but for now, his artifacts are very lackluster. I am running a Freedom Sworn on him though, so this does hard carry him very well. Having all of this elemental mastery front loaded onto the weapon does help quite a lot. Constellations are C0, and this will absolutely be changing when his banner reruns. I'm actually really excited to get more constellations of Kazuha. Talents are of course level 9. Stat-wise, nothing to show off here, but this is what he's running. And we'll just quickly breeze through his artifacts, but there's really nothing to see here. These are just like base level pieces. Some of them I don't even have leveled up. Alright, let's move on to someone I've spent a little bit more time building. Here we have Shenhe, my cryo support that I use quite frequently. Her most notable feature here is I have her attack above 3500. She's running an R1 Calamity Queller, Constellation C4, with her most important talent being level 9, her burst being level 8, and her normal attack being level 6. Here are her stats. Her crit value isn't quite as important as her attack percent, so I focus more heavily on getting good attack percent pieces, but she has a decent level of crit rate, with a huge amount of energy recharge, almost being at 200%. We run 2-piece Gladiator, 2-piece Shimenawa to get the most attack out of her as possible. Here are the pieces I managed to put together, again, mostly focusing on attack percent as much as possible, but also liking energy recharge and crit value as much as possible. While we're on the subject of cryo characters, let's take a look at Ayaka. With Ayaka, we are running the R1 Mist Splitter with Constellation 3. I would really like to get C4 on her before her banner ends, but I don't know if I'm going to take that route or not. C4 is really strong for her burst damage. Talents are all level 9. We are running 4-piece Blizzard Strayer, so her crit rate is obviously low intentionally. With Cryo Resonance and the bonuses from Blizzard Strayer, we can get up to about 70% crit rate there, with 271% crit damage and almost 130% energy recharge. As I said, we're running 4-piece Blizzard Strayer, with a focus on CV as much as possible, with extra benefits from energy recharge and attack percent as much as possible. Since we're focusing on cryo characters, why not jump to Ganyu here next? With Ganyu, I'm running the R1 Amos bow. We have her at Constellation 1 and talent level 9 on all talents. Ganyu is also running Blizzard Strayer, so her crit rate is intentionally low. So we're running 25% crit rate with about 227% crit damage and 120% energy recharge. Her artifacts here should look familiar because she's the only character I share artifacts with, since I haven't farmed Blizzard Strayer enough to have a set each for Ganyu and Ayaka. So these pieces will all look similar, except for the off piece, which I use a different off piece for each character. Let's jump next to Yaemiko. For Yaemiko, we're running her signature weapon, Kagura's Verity, at R1. We have her at C2, with level 9 talents, except for her basic, which is only level 8. Her stats are about 60% crit rate, with 218% crit damage and 125% energy recharge. For her artifacts, we're looking for as much crit value as possible, with attack percent and energy recharge. Most of her pieces here are fairly decent. We have usually between anywhere 20 to 40 CV, which is common with most of my DPS characters. Now let's jump to Ayato here, who's running his signature weapon, the Haran, at R1. I have him at Constellation 2, with level 9 talents, except for his basic, which is only at level 8. We have him at about 63% crit rate, with 208% crit damage, and almost 120% energy recharge. I find energy recharge isn't quite as important for him, but it's good to have at least a little bit. His artifacts are 4-piece Heart of Death, which is basically the pieces I had left over after farming Blizzard Strayer for Ganyu and Ayaka. We have some fairly decent CV pieces, but nothing spectacular. The next character we move on to is Hu Tao. For Hu Tao, we are using R1 Staff of Homa, which is a separate staff than the one we're using for Zhongli. I did intentionally farm 2 so they would each have their own. She has C2 constellations with level 9 talents. Here we have her crit rate at 56%, with her crit damage almost at 250, with 121% energy recharge. She's running 4-piece Crimson Witch, this flower being one of my more exceptional pieces at 40 CV, with a roll in HP percent and some energy recharge as a substat. Her other pieces are fairly adequate, but nothing quite as good as her flower. The only other notable piece is this off-piece cup, which is actually fairly strong. I think that about covers all of the 5-star characters that I have built up, so let's just breeze through really quickly and show some of the 4-star supports I have. We're not going to spend too much time on these, we're just going to breeze through them really quickly. So we'll start here with Goro, who we use an R5 Favonius Warbow on. We of course have him at C6, with his talents being fairly high as well. I would like to get that skill up to level 9 if possible, but otherwise we've got his burst at level 9. His stats here real quick. We just mainly focusing on energy recharge there. His crit value is not as important. We are using 4-piece Noblesse on him, which is a little clunky since I also run him with Bennett in my Ito team, but them's the breaks. I have a lot of good Noblesse pieces and it just makes sense to use them for Goro. We also have Diona here, who I use an R5 Sacrificial Bow on. Of course, her constellations are C6 and her talents are all level 9. Here are her stats real quick. Again, we're not focusing on crit value, we focus mainly on HP percent to get her shield as strong as possible, and of course energy recharge so she can get her burst back off cooldown. Like most of my supports, I just run Noblesse Oblige. Definitely makes the most sense with her when I run her primarily with Eula. Here we have Rosaria, which I mainly use with my Eula team as well. So she does have the R5 catch right now, Constellation 6, with level 9 talents. Here are her artifacts with a focus on crit value and energy recharge and attack percent. So we might as well run to Zhangling now. I usually switch my catch between her and Rosaria, so we'll go ahead and put the catch on her to see how she looks. Of course, I have her at C6 with level 9 talents. These are her stats as of now. Of course, the crit rate could definitely be a little bit higher. Her pieces are nothing to write home about, nothing amazing. We use 2-piece Emblem and 2-piece Noblesse. Nothing out of the ordinary here. She basically gets all of the leftover pieces I have from building the other characters that I use more often. Still though, even with this configuration, she does a really good amount of damage and still is a useful hero on my team. Bennett, of course, here is one of the characters I use the most for obvious reasons. As a support, he is really powerful. We run an R1 Akia Favonia on him unless I'm running into energy recharge problems on specific teams, but generally I use the Favonia. I know this is going to be controversial, but yes, I did C6 him. I find that most of the new characters come out, they make sure that his infusion doesn't affect them, and also the teams where it does become problematic, I just don't play those teams, so I don't find it to be that big of an issue. My personality is one in which I would not be able to tolerate the notification that is at the top of the screen while playing the game. Whenever there's a notification, I have to get rid of it. That reasoning works for me, but of course I wouldn't recommend it for everybody. Talents are of course level 9, and we're running probably my strongest Noblesse pieces on him at the moment, with a very high amount of crit value as we run him as a burst support, and then focusing on attack percent for more damage and HP percent for more heals. Elemental Mastery is of course a decent substat as well. Kujo Sara here is a character I don't play that often, but she does run the R2 Skyward Harp. I have her talents fairly well built up, but she has the level 8 skill, which is her most important ability. Should get that to level 9, but like I said, I don't play her that often. Constellation is C6, and here are her artifacts. We use 4-piece Emblem, basically getting the bottom of the barrel pieces that I have left over from that domain. I only play her as a hyper carry for Raiden thus far, so she just really doesn't have that solid pieces yet. Now we have Toma here, who I have the R5 Favonius Lance. He is C6 of course, with fairly high talents, his burst being level 9 and his other abilities being level 8. I only play Toma with Hu Tao generally, so his pieces aren't anything spectacular, but we do run 4-piece Noblesse on him. Again, just kind of the bottom of the barrel pieces. His focus is of course on HP percent for shielding, so he's kind of like Diona in that regard. Now the last of the 4-star characters that I have built, of course, we have Xingqiu here. I run a R1 Primordial Jade Cutter on him. Unless I'm having energy recharge issues with the specific team I'm running him on, I might switch him to something different to get more energy recharge. We have him at C6, with level 9 talents. Because of the Primordial Jade Cutter, he has an extremely high crit rate with about 180% crit damage and 172% energy recharge. Again, the energy recharge is up there to compensate for his weapon not having energy recharge. Right now I'm running 2-piece Noblesse with 2-piece Gladiators. This is primarily because a lot of the teams that I have him in already have a 4-piece Noblesse hero, so I find this configuration generally works out a little bit better for me, but there are times where I might switch in a 4-piece Noblesse if I know no one else is using the 4-piece Noblesse set bonus. I do give him some of my better pieces as he is one of the stronger supports in the game, but nothing that crazy. So that kind of covers the characters that I use and how I have their battle configuration set up. I want to spend a little bit of time just covering my account in general as a whole. I do consider myself sort of a completionist to some degree in this game. I try to collect everything that it possibly makes sense to collect and fill out menus here and there and try to build achievements. So I want to show a little bit of that off very quickly here. I know that's not the most exciting part of an account showcase, but I do want to spend a little bit of time doing that. So achievement-wise in the game, as of patch 2.6, there are 640 achievements in the game. I currently have 623 of them, so I'm just missing 17. As you can see, most of the categories here are all at level 100, except for a few. Cooking here is also something I take fairly seriously. As of 2.6, there are 109 recipes in the game, and I have collected every single one of them. Not only have I collected them, but I've also maxed their proficiency. The archive here is something else I try to go through and unlock every single entry. You can see here we have the equipment tab. I have every single equipment piece unlocked except for the 2 weapons that I haven't collected yet, the Summit Shaper and the Skyward Atlas. We have all of the artifact sets here. This means I've collected one of each type of artifact in the game. There's the living being category, which basically means I've fought every single type of enemy in the game. And there's also this wildlife tab, which basically means I've interacted with every type of creature in the game as well. Geography, which basically means we've collected all of the waypoints in every single section of the game. There's the travelogue here, which is basically just doing all of the Archon quests and the story quests. I have completed every single one of those. We have the book section, which is basically just going around the world and collecting every single book. You can tell they're completed when they have the little green check mark next to them. There are some books that aren't collectible right now. You cannot get volumes 2 through 7 of the Pale Princess and the 6 Pygmies books. And there's also this draft Hilichurl Ballads, which does not have volumes 2 and 3 released. But other than that, I have every single book. We have materials, which is just basically collecting basic materials in the game. This includes collecting every single recipe at least once, and including all of the ingredients and potions. And then we have trophies, which is basically just collecting boss materials and different types of gems and materials used for weapon ascensions and character ascensions, and talents as well. Then we have gadgets, basically collecting all of the gadgets in the game. Really quick here, we can show off that I've done every single hangout in the game as well and reached all endings. Name cards is another thing I've tried to collect, but unfortunately a lot of these name cards were locked behind battle passes of the past that I did not purchase. So we are missing 10 name cards currently. 7 of them are from missed battle pass purchases, which I cannot collect, and 3 of them are achievement based. Skins is something else I've made an effort to try to collect. We have Jean's skin, of course, Kaching's skin, Ningguang's skin, and lastly, Barbara's skin. There are currently 4 skins in the game. Map exploration, I do try to 100% every portion of the map as possible. So you see here we have Mondstadt's overworld map and Leeway's overworld map all at 100%, and then 100% for Inazuma as well. This, of course, includes Enkonomiya, which is also at 100%, and the underground portion of the chasm, which we also have at 100%. We'll also take a look at reputation and world quests. I did take the time to make sure Mondstadt has a reputation of level 8 with all of the 22 world quests completed. And Leeway, of course, we've done the same thing with a max reputation of level 8 and having done all 51 world quests. In Azuma, of course, we've done the same thing, except their max reputation is level 10. Once I get a specific commission, I can actually complete this world quest, but until then, it is locked behind RNG. And the last little bit to show off is I have maxed the Frostbearing Tree, the Sakura Tree, and the Lumenstone Adjuvant. Anyways guys, I think that's about it for me. If you made it this far into the video, know that I appreciate you. And if you're someone who likes to collect things, I would encourage you to join my Discord down below. We have quite a small community growing there, and we're focusing pretty heavily on just collecting things in the game. And we're just hanging out and chatting and doing a lot of fun things as well. So I would encourage you to click the link down below. Other than that, I hope to see you in the next one.